I am sitting with Morgan Young. One of my favorite segments that we do is Ask a Preacher, and you guys have sent in your questions, and I kept compiling them, and there's one that has been over the top, constantly asked, and then there's been a couple other ones, and I'm saving this for one show because it's going to be big, it's going to be huge. Everybody talks about it. First question straight out of the gate, though, I've got for you is, what is a Christian view on suicide?
Um, I've done a funeral or two
Mm-hmm.
for people who have killed themselves. Um, I don't really think there's a passage that we can look to and say, here's the definitive what God says about suicide.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So what I do is I look at the broader picture of, in the whole of the Bible, what do we know about God's character?
Mm-hmm.
And we see that He's a fair and a just God.
Sure.
And so, one of the situations that I've run into in suicides is, as you talk to the family, you realize when somebody gets to the point of taking their life, very often, I think it's fair to say, and I don't mean this to sound judgmental about the person doing it, but they weren't in their right mind.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you think about where you have to get.
What place you become.
Absolutely, in terms of taking your own life.
Mm-hmm.
And I struggle with seeing everything I know about God
Mm-hmm.
being just and fair and loving and grace filled, saying, well, I was going to let you in, but since you did this, I just can't do it on
Sure.
on a technicality. And even though we know that it's killing is a sin,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not the unforgivable sin.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we know we have soldiers, we have police
Sure.
officers who do this, and I don't have any doubts that if they are believers in Jesus, where they're going.
But I think some of the questions were even you're not even going to have time, even if you're out of your what you would call normal mind, you don't have time to repent. Oh, what am I doing? Jesus, I'm so sorry.
Okay, so this brings up the question of, do I have to be saved minute to minute?
Mm-hmm.
And the answer clearly to that is no.
Right.
In other words, one is in a relationship with Jesus,
Mm-hmm.
or one isn't. And when you look at how the Bible reads, if I just sinned and didn't repent and walked across the street, got hit by a car and was
Mm-hmm.
killed, I still think I go to heaven.
Because he is forgiving and he is.
Well,
And you have that relationship already, the
Well,
base.
Well, let's say this: sins do not keep us out of heaven.
Mm-hmm.
There's only one sin that keeps us out of heaven.
And not knowing Jesus as your.
It's and here's the sin of that, and we don't talk about it in these terms very much, but people who have not chosen to accept Jesus, or maybe even people who say, well, I'm not choosing any religion,
Mm-hmm.
that's for the birds. Their decision is pride. Their decision is, I'm my own God. I have determined how this works. And so even though they don't think they've chosen something, they have chosen themselves as a God declaring
Sure.
how reality really is.
So does that go back to choosing idols in front of? Are you putting yourself as that idol?
That's another way to say it, sure. But for those who, and again, we just want to be clear, sins are what they are. They are not things that preclude us from going to heaven.
Mm-hmm.
It's a relation. In other words, I'm confident you and I will sin today,
Mm-hmm.
and it's very possible you and I will sin and not realize we have sinned.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with that.
Well, I mean,
Sorry, Jesus.
well, I mean, if you talk about sin, there are the shades of sin, like say greed.
Oh, sure.
Sometimes we have to be reminded that we were greedy today.
Mm-hmm.
It's not wholly apparent to us, but we may have sinned today, not been aware of it, not repented. But again, it's like a sin. As soon as we commit a sin, that doesn't like negate our salvation.
Mm-hmm.
Sins do not keep us out of heaven.
It's one of those topics because people were giving examples in these questions about bullying being one of the reasons that people would commit suicide, especially for younger kids. But financial insecurities, down to marriage insecurities, I guess is the polite way that I can put that.
Mm-hmm.
There were so many different reasons that people were asking that question that it just got me wondering, and that's why I kind of passed it on to you. And again, I'm not lying when I say this is one of my favorite segments because it kind of pulls what people are thinking, and a lot of times I'll sit back and I'll say I wondered the same thing. So you know, there's so many reasons that lead up to committing suicide or ending your own life.
Absolutely. And let me just broaden this out a minute, because I alluded in my answer initially to people maybe not being in the right frame of mind.
Mm-hmm.
Let me broaden this out. I have a dear friend who has battled cancer for years now. He's his mind is in a great place.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine if he would get to a place where the pain was too much, or enduring what he is enduring is too much, that he would take his life, that God would go, oh, well, I was going to take it, but not now.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, I think we can be too quick to judge
Mm-hmm.
on these types of things and not really understand the duress that is going on in someone's life when they get to the point of taking their own life.
Mm-hmm. It's just one of those topics that I think so many people have questions and different angles coming out of, like you were saying, a medical necessity, or you know, even despair. You know, the loss of a loved one, where you just cannot survive knowing that that loved one is gone. That there's so many reasons, and again, I don't want to make light of any of the questions that they sent in, because truly, there's points in my life that I can kind of associate with some of the questions and what they're saying. Now, did I bring myself to that point? No. But I get what they're saying, and to where, you know, you're wondering, what would Jesus say at that point, just before you happen to get to that point, the no point of no return? What would he say to that person to say, look, this isn't what you need to do?
Right. And again, what is Jesus doing? What is God doing? He is restoring people. This is what he does. And I mean, when you think about someone who is to the point of suicide, how much do they need restoring? And so again, if they have professed a faith in Jesus Christ at some point along the way, but then kind of, you know, plummeted to the point of despair, God is still with them. His grace is amazing.
And that's one of the cool things that people take advantage of. You know, it's not like you're ever walking alone. Jesus, I'm sure, is touching their shoulder. That, at least I imagine that Jesus is there walking you through even that step of your life, even as you're ending it. You know what I mean? I feel like he's never going to forsake you. He says that.
If he easily, and again, the way we talk about things like, well, if I do this, you know, will I lose my salvation? When we talk about salvation in a fragile way, it begs the question: is it really amazing? And again, when we read the scriptures, it is amazing. Because in spite of all the jackass stuff that I am going to do, he has already forgiven me for those things, because I've appropriated that grace.
Sure. And again, if you have another sidebar to that question, or you feel like it's kind of presents itself to another question like part B, go ahead and send those in. Facebook, tweet, call me, let me know. He's here to answer. I'll put him back in the hot seat. But another popular question, which really doesn't have anything to do, and there's no good segue, but masturbation. Is it a sin? Sorry, Morgan. Welcome to the show.
Is it a sin? Again, a lot of times people are asking questions about, like, in other words, is the Bible, they ask questions as if the Bible is a list of
do's and don'ts.
Do's and don'ts.
Yes.
And there was a time when that was true, and we call this the Old Testament.
Sure.
But now in this period of Jesus, it's all about relationship. I mean, when he saves us, that's really what happens. We get adopted into his family, and now we are in relationship with God. So I will answer the question, is masturbation a sin, with some questions.
Okay.
Like, one question would be, if you do that, how do you feel afterward? Do you feel positive? Do you feel like, ready to take on, that was great?
Yeah.
This is so awkward.
It is awkward,
Or my other point is, do you feel shame when that's done? Another question, is it something you'd rather people not know about? I don't see this tweeted very much.
Right.
Let me say it all. So again, it's like, if it's something that you hide, that's probably telling you something. Another question is, who or what is in your mind when this is going on?
Oh, wow.
All right. And I mean, we're talking like, for a single person, are you thinking of a specific person when you're doing this, or are you simply objectifying a certain type of the opposite sex? If you're married, are you thinking about somebody totally different?
Because can I stop you there? Would that be
Sure.
cheating in your mind? Because technically, you're not acting on it, but you're
We would say we'd be coveting someone else's
Right.
wife or coveting someone else. We would be lusting after
Mhm.
something that's really not ours to lust after.
because I think that was a couple of questions. Because believe it or not, it's been a very popular topic. They said, "What about celebrity? What about maybe not having that particular person in mind, but having a body type or body style in mind?"
Yeah, and again, it's we look at the Pharisees. The Pharisees, they were to a T perfectly religious people,
Mm-hmm.
and Jesus really got into their, under their skin, because he talked about it. Outside, it all looks good, but inside, it's a mess.
Mm-hmm.
And the inside that he alludes to includes the thought life.
Mm-hmm.
What are we entertaining mentally? And so that's why, what is going on in here? Because
Mm-hmm.
when people ask the masturbation question, they're thinking physically.
Right.
But we have to think holistically about sin and where is our mind going? And like another question would be to people who are married, does this act after you're done, does this lead you to intimacy with your spouse?
Mm-hmm.
Or does this make you want to hide or make you more distant from your spouse?
So many questions leading up to, and again, that would be one of those questions that if you have part two to that, go ahead and send that in, Facebook me, tweet me, and let me know, because there were so many questions leading up to one. Plainly, does the Bible say don't do it?
Right.
And you always had your parents of telling you. Honestly, it's one of those questions that parents feel awkwardly about talking with their kids. But even parents from that standpoint, how do I tell my child, is this a good idea? Is this not a good idea?
Yeah. And again, I mean, a great litmus test for questions about sin is to contextualize it into relationship with Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Is this something that I'm glad he knew about, or is this something I'm embarrassed that he saw
Mm-hmm.
because he is with us all the time?
Sure.
And so that becomes a good barometer for
At
what
least-
is sin and
at
what
least-
is not.
The jump off point, because it is a touchy subject. Parents say it. We're all 5-year-olds when it comes to it, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But it is a popular question, and I received it multiple times asking, where does that break-off point come? Again, back to the celebrity question, back to the, if you're maliciously after your secretary, I'll just throw out a television program.
Mhm.
If you're lusting after your secretary, I'm sure you would classify that as a sin, right?
Well, absolutely.
If you're married.
You're coveting. You are. Anytime that you are thinking things, and here's a good picture. If somebody at any point in time could take your thoughts and like project them on the wall,
Mm-hmm.
would you be embarrassed?
Probably.
If you're embarrassed, it's probably not a good deal. It's probably sin.
So on the other end of the coin, would you also say sometimes it is healthy?
I'm not a doctor.
You're a doctor of the Lord.
I don't know what I could say is healthy there.
Mhm.
Because again, the question goes, if somebody can lay out to me, like, this is what is going on in my, I can't even get there. I
Mhm.
have a pretty broad imagination. And
Sure.
I'm trying right now to concoct in my mind the imagery that someone would have that would stimulate them sexually in that way.
Sure.
And that imagery be positive. What would that be? What would that look like?
That's the question for you guys. What would that be?
Well, I mean, even if you say, you know what, I'm fantasizing or I'm thinking about my wife.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yes, but what you're doing is you are keeping that act of sexuality to yourself,
Mhm.
and you are not sharing it.
Which is the gift that Jesus gives.
Exactly. So you are misappropriating the gift.
You heard it here.
So-
Right here. Again, keep your questions coming. We've got all kinds of stuff in the hopper ready to go, but we can always use more questions. I'm not kidding when I tell you guys this is one of my favorite segments, because you guys ask the questions that I've always wondered myself, that, you can't always have that direct line to Jesus and completely understand some of the questions sometimes and the answers that he gives. So we've got Morgan. Morgan will step into that role and be the mediator. So as always, Facebook me, tweet me, and let me know. We have all kinds of time, right?
Yes.
To answer your questions. So again, thank you for coming in today.
Always great to be here.
Keep those questions coming.